Hey guys, this is part 1A of Kelly's Eating for Health Moving Marathon. I decided that I do want to go over the 5 Eating for Health guidelines. I actually intended to, do that when I did this, but, like I told you, I'm just doing this on the fly off the top of my head, and I'm modeling for you not being perfect because that's what I want you guys to do with your food thing. Don't let analysis by paralysis and confusion with all the different information out there prevent you from doing what you already know you can do and places to start. Most people can start by starting to eat more whole, fresh, natural foods, which is really easy to do, and you don't have to know all the minutia of stuff. And so I'm modeling for you being imperfect, and here I am being imperfect. So here we go. I'm going to give you my 5 Eating for Health guidelines. So the first is, if it's not food, don't eat it. And if you do, wait a long time before you do it again so your body can recover. Because as I was saying before, so much of it has to do with the percentage of time that you're having things. So if you were only having this 10 or 20% of the time, chances are if you had an otherwise healthy body, you'd be able to just process it through without a whole lot of trouble. Well, that kind of depends on how you were going into it. The state of your body, as I said, going into it. But, just imagine if you were eating this 90% of the time and this 10% of the time. So a lot of what you eat and your health has to do with the percentage of the time that you're eating things, okay? And that's why I say wait a long time before you do it again so your body can recover. Because if you're taking a hit or you have this stuff as a, what I call a planned indulgence or something like that, it's not going to be such a big deal as if you're eating it every day, all day, which is what 90% of, people are doing these days, here in America anyway. Okay, so that's my first Eating for Health guideline. My second Eating for Health guideline is eliminate or relegate stimulants to rare occasions. The more distant and rare, the better, okay? Now, by stimulants, I'm referring to primarily refined sugars, but then there's also caffeine and alcohol, and people are addicted to stimulants, basically, especially sugar in this country, and caffeine as well. And they act more like drugs in the body than they do food. Both refined sugars and caffeine do. And alcohol is basically just another form of sugar. So like I said, if I have time, I'm going to go through, the second Eating for Health guideline and do a continuum on the sugars as well to give you some insights of that. I told you things would fall over, didn't I? Actually, I have to show you this. This is my my Amy's Pizza, which Amy's Pizza, by the way, has actually won awards for being the best frozen pizza when compared to all other frozen pizzas, all the cheapo fake food brands as well. And it has cheese, but they also have a roasted vegetable one that doesn't have any cheese on it, and it doesn't have fake cheese on it either. And you can also get, like this kind that doesn't, it's just roasted vegetables and there's no cheese on it. This is actually from Trader Joe's. So just so you know, my vegan friends and people who are avoiding dairy also because of food allergens, because dairy is the #1 common food allergen, you can get things like this that don't have the dairy. I had that because I wanted to show you guys that. Okay, so that's the second Eating for Health guideline. Avoid or completely eliminate or only have on rare occasions stimulants such as caffeine and sugar primarily, and the alcohol. Okay. Number 3 Eating for Health guideline is eat an abundance of whole, fresh, natural foods and little to no processed foods. Okay, so that would include this as well. I mean, these are still processed foods, remember. So eventually, in an ideal world, you'd be moving, in this direction as you make the transition to the healthier foods. Now, some people are they're going to get stuck here, well, you know what, that's okay, that's your choice. It's still a much better choice than this. But if you really want to get healthy, and if you really want to get your energy back and get your weight down and also prevent disease and reverse disease in your body as well, you're really going to want to be moving to the whole, fresh, natural foods and cutting this out as well. But this is a good place to start. And this is actually a great place to, I think you should draw the line here, personally. I don't eat this stuff anymore at all. I used to eat this 98% of the time. I was a major junk food junkie, a major soda-aholic. I'll tell you my story in another little introductory video or something. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I was a major junk food junkie, and I ate this all the time. I got really sick at a young age, and I had to learn the hard way the importance of food and moving over to the whole, fresh, natural foods, or at least to the naturally processed foods. And now, for me, this is a planned indulgence, you know, as compared to this stuff. I just don't go there at all. I mean, I'd probably have to be like starving, you know, to eat this. You know, that's just the place that I'm at. But that took a while, you know, that took time, and it might take time for you as well. Even though I'll tell you, back when I did it, it was more challenging. There were very few health food stores out there. The natural foods industry. I'm old, by the way. I'm going to be 56. I'm going to be 56 in 3 days. Okay. So that was Eat for Health guideline number 3. Eat an abundance of whole, fresh, natural foods and little to no processed foods. So ultimately, you want to be eating this most of the time. Okay. Eat for Health guideline number 4. Account for food allergies and sensitivities when making wise food choices. Now, this is a really important guideline because so many people have food allergies and sensitivities and they don't realize it. So, for example, like I was saying, the dairy. Dairy is the #1 common food allergen. And part of it is because of the way it's processed, the hormones and antibiotics, it's pasteurized, and part of it is because it's an inferior food. You know, the animal food, dairy products are very mucus producing. Most people don't produce enough lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks the dairy down. And so food allergies and sensitivities, dairy being #1, are, you know, really important to know for yourself. You know, what are your food allergies and sensitivities? And you don't have to have a full-out allergy to have a problem with it. You know, you can have a skin test, or, you know, all of those different allergy kind of tests, and they may come up and show negative, but you still have a problem with those foods. That particular diagnostic test just isn't able to, to show you that, or doesn't show up on that. And so one of the best things you can do is to do my basic elimination diet, which is outlined, actually it's outlined step by step in this book, and when I come out with a new version it will be as well. And, you know, basically where you take out all the common food allergens, you stop eating them, as well as any other foods that you suspect you might have a problem with, and then you add them back in one at a time to test for sensitivities. Now, you have to do it right in order to get you know, a clear reading on that, but that's a great way to find out if you have food allergies and sensitivities. So dairy is #1 food allergy and sensitivity, but then there's all kinds of other food allergies and sensitivities as well. So soy, for example, and, you know, my vegan friends, I see so many people eating soy. Soy is one of the most common food allergens, and the problem with most soy out there today is that it's also genetically modified, which increases its allergenic potential. And so it causes even more problems for people. It causes thyroid problems. The other problem with soy is that it has estrogenic problems. And once again, in the United States today, most people, men and women alike, are estrogen dominant and they're progesterone deficient, which is a whole other lecture I'm going to do soon for you guys as well. But they're estrogen dominant, and so when you're adding things in to your diet, like soy, for example, that has the estrogenic properties, that can increase problems for you. And it's one of the reasons that all these the reproductive reproductive cancers are so high. All the breast cancer, the ovarian cancer, the testicular and prostate cancer, those are all estrogen dominant cancers. So soy is definitely something that you want to stay away from for the most part. And you know, you can have it on a rotational basis, you know, maybe once or twice a week. Make sure that you get organic, but it's not something you want to be having every day, all day. Okay, so for my vegan friends, that's one of the things I always kind of get crazy with the, you know, with the soy thing, that everybody's eating all this soy. And it really can be a problem as well. So one of the common food allergens. And wheat. Wheat's another one. Wheat is another common food allergen, and most people are eating wheat every day, all day. In fact, the average American is eating wheat, dairy, soy, and sugar every day, all day. Because the other thing about the soy is in almost all of these products here, because it's a cheap filler. They make soybean oil. It's in virtually every processed packaged food today. It's really hard to stay away from. So most people today are eating common food allergens every day, all day. And when you move into eating the whole fresh natural foods, especially the superior whole fresh natural foods, you're not going to have that problem. You're not going to be getting those common food allergens. Although over here, citrus is one of the common food allergens. Citrus fruits and also berries can be a problem as well for some people. So, but you know what? The clearer and stronger your digestive system is, the better able you are to process through, you know, virtually any food. But I guarantee you, if you're eating this all the time, you don't have a clear, strong system. Which reminds me, oh, okay, I'll come back to that. I'm going to give you my last Eating for Health guideline, and then this is funny, because usually when I teach a class, you know, I've got people sitting in front of me, and I'll say, okay, you guys remind me that I was going to say something else, but clearly you guys can't remind me, but I'll have to do a live stream where you guys can chime in about things, but I'm going to remember, okay? So, because I want to tell you something else about this category as well. Number 5. Account for ailments when making wise food choices. Now, that's another thing. You know, just because it's a whole, fresh, natural food doesn't mean it's good for you. And it doesn't have to be a common food allergen either. So a lot of people, I don't have spinach out here, but the example that I always use, because people are always, so many people start eating all this spinach thinking that it's a healthy food, which it is, you know, if you don't have certain conditions, or if you can process it through and digest it properly. But just as an example, spinach is very high in oxalic acid, and it can actually cause or contribute to kidney stones, gout, rheumatoid arthritis. And so spinach is not something, it's not a healthy food, it's not something that's good for you if you have any of those conditions. And I'll tell you something, every single client I've ever had that had kidney stones, swear to God, every single client I've ever had that had a history of kidney stones and kidney problems was having spinach and or blueberries regularly, usually every day, like in a smoothie or, you know, in the salads. And blueberries are also high in oxalic acid. So once again, if you had a really clear, strong system, or a really clear, strong system would be over here, you'd be able to process those things through. But if you have a weakened, congested system, which is what causes dis-ease, is a weakened, congested system, then you're going to have a hard time processing some of this stuff through as well, which could be problematic for you. So you want to account for ailments or whatever dis-ease you have going on when making wise food choices as well. So some people will have problems with, you know, with citrus foods, and then once their system gets clearer and stronger, they're able to process them through, and it's not as much a problem. So I could literally do a whole video or a whole book probably on each of the 5 Eating for Health guidelines, but that's the 5 Eating for Health guidelines in a nutshell, just very quickly, because I'll be, you know, referring to them as we go along, and that's why I decided to do this little number 1A bonus video. And back to this, the thing that I told you I was going to remember, thank you for reminding me, telepathically. People will say to me, they'll say, well, you know, I've got you know, my grandma's 110 years old, and she, you know, she eats fast food, or she eats all this crappy food all the time, and, you know, and she's healthy, and she lived to be 100, yada, yada, yada. Well, here's the thing. Your 110-year-old grandma that you're talking about, or what the people are talking about when they make reference to that, for the first 50, 60, 70 years of their life, they didn't have this. This didn't exist. And in the it was really around the 1950s and 60s when the processed foods started to become popular. And the thing is that they didn't have all these nasty ingredients in them. They were more in keeping with these. And the example I always use for that is like Campbell's soup, for example. Campbell's soup didn't used to have MSG in it and hydrogenated oils and all this other stuff. And now it does. So it used to be here, and now it's over here. So that's another thing to consider. The other thing to consider is that your grandma that's 100 years old, that, you know, eats all the crappy food or whatever it is, you know, like I was saying, you know, this stuff didn't exist for the first part of for her life. But the other thing is she came from a body. She came from a mother who didn't have any of this stuff as well, that was only having the whole fresh natural foods with no hormones and antibiotics and pesticides and chemicals and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind when, you know, if you have a tendency to, you know, you're trying to make sense of this. How can it be that some people could eat all this and they never have problems? Or, well, usually they do have problems. And quite honestly, you know, usually the 100-year-old people, unless they've really been eating this primarily, they do have lots of problems. And, you know, we can keep people alive a really long time these days. It doesn't mean they're living. You know, it doesn't mean that they're having a healthy life. And in fact, what is it, something like the last 10 years of someone's life are basically spent going in and out of hospitals and having all kinds of procedures in a very low level quality of life. So that's something to take into consideration as well. So, okay, that's my 5 Eating for Health guidelines in a nutshell. And like I said, now I'm going to be moving this stuff out, and then I'm going to go through the whole fresh natural foods and do a little continuum with those. So I'll be back. Stay tuned. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye for now.